All right, I want to start by saying Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahabrashai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahabrashai, Kala Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Kala Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this doctrine in truth and sincerity. Shalom to the elect. The Heavenly Father's name is Yahweh, which means He is or He exists. Ba'Hashem, in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, we know His name to be Yahabrashai, which means He is the deliverer. He is the Savior for the Hebrew Israelites and the pedigree of the Father. Ba'Hashem, in the name of the Rakak Wadash, which means the Holy Spirit, that's able to give us the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of who we are, which are the true Hebrew Israelites. The so-called Negro, so-called Latino, so-called Native American, or other speckled bird looking like the other nations in your spirit, bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai. Then you could be one of the elect. Shalom. We've been discontinued from our heritage because we went off following after false gods and false idols, not following the law, statute, commandments that was given to us by our forefathers. And because of those offenses, we were sent into captivity. But through our Lord Yahabrashai HaMashiach being the perfect sacrifice in the flesh to the Heavenly Father, He's been given all power to be able to sit on the right-hand side of the Heavenly Father Yahweh, to be able to open the seals of the Holy Scriptures, to be able to give the understanding to the very elect, the ones that would hear this word and will return back to Yahweh Shemashai in truth and sincerity in the things they say and the things they do. And they would be able to understand the spirit of prophecy, which is the spirit of our Lord Yahabrashai and His second coming, that there's going to be great sorrows, great mournings, a great insurrection on those that fear the Lord. Okay, and this is one of those devices that Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is using to be able to bring in his Novus Ordo Seclorum, which is on the back of a dollar bill, which is his New World Order. Okay, which is what? This real ID, which is basically taking away the physical digital ID and making it digitally. Okay, taking away the physical ID and making it digitally, just like with the cash, taking away the petrodollar, the fiat currency, the debt note, okay, and bringing it into the form of of a digital currency, which would be a central banking digital currency, okay, which will be governed by starting with Esau Edom and his blockchain, okay, Psalms 83, that crafty counsel, so Esau Edom and these heathen nations, okay, and what you see is going into a wealth transfer. Okay, where Salakia, bear with me. Yeah, Salakia. So where you have a wealth transfer of going from the dollar bill, America's currency, going to everything going digital to a cashless society. So in that they need the whole dollar to fold. Okay, so that's why you see debt spending. That's why you see them bringing out the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin currency. Okay, everything is going digital. You see executive orders from Biden, executive order 14067, which goes into the biometrics. Then you have with Trump, where he's paying, taking away basically the paper checks, okay, and making everything digitally, taking away the penny, okay, not making the penny anymore. Then it will go to the nickel, then it will go to the dollar, then the $5, etc. Okay, ultimately bringing in their digital society. So this is the heathen raging and imagine a vain thing. That vain thing is what their New World Order. So in that New World Order, they're causing it. Okay, that word causeth, Revelation 13 and 16, the Greek word poeo, form into fashion and constituting their society, okay, to bow down to their system. Okay, through what you're not going to be able to travel to these certain places unless you have a real ID, which ultimately will lead to the chip. Okay, or you have certain qualifications that you need, certain credentials to be able to go in and out of a city. It speaks about in 2 Ezra 15, a man shall desire to go in a city and shall not be able, because these cities are you're gonna have to have a chip to be able to have access. Okay, so this is from Redacted, and this is what prophecy. Okay, let me get this is Psalms 140 and 1. It says, deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from that violent man. And that's Esau Edom, the so-called white man. He is that violent man that wants to bring in his New World Order at all costs. Okay, and he's not afraid of blood. Okay, so we're praying to the Lord to be able to preserve us. Okay, the tabernacle of David, which is the elect, are the only ones that are going to be able to be saved. Okay, Psalms 140 and 1. Deliver me, O Yahweh, from that evil man. Preserve me from that violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart continually. They are gathered together for war. So this is what war on your mind, okay, on the foods that you eat, the barium aluminum in the air, the jobs that you work in. Okay, all this is orchestrated chaos to have the people bow down to their system in some form of way. Okay, and they're imagining mischiefs by what plotting evil, because they've been speaking about this real ID for about, I think, like about 7 years at least. Okay, as far as, but now they're on May 7th, they said they're going to mandate it. Okay, and this is going to create a war on the people because they don't understand what it really is. Now it starts with the real ID, but really it's about controlling the people where they go, because what they're saying is that you can't go on flights, you can't go to a federal office, okay, unless you have that real ID, which is ultimately going to lead to the actual physical chip. Okay, so let's go to the word mischiefs, because they'll say one thing, okay, but they won't tell you the whole story why they really want it, and it's really to control the people. Okay. Yeah, mischiefs in the heart. So that word hearts goes into the Hebrew word lahab, which means your mind. Okay, so they're playing what mind tricks on you, far as cutting off the job supply, hiring prices, hyperinflation. So where people are going to be running down to the government for help, and what Isaiah 30, they shall help in vain. This word mischief.
Strong's H 7451, ra, and second entry, ra, and third entry, ra'ah.
Okay, the Hebrew raha, right, 7451, bad, evil. So evil goes into bad times, right? Unpleasant, and it's going to be unpleasant when you're not able to. You got your real ID, and now they're telling you now you have to get something else. Okay, and this is we're going to create the class wars and the civil wars, the gender wars, right? Because this is just the beginning of the storms to come. Bad, unpleasant, giving pain, unhappiness. Yeah, so you have people that were working every day, where they had a house and things like that. Now they're homeless on the streets. Okay, they're in happiness, so they're turning to the sorcery, the pharmakia, turning towards cardinal things. Okay, for what to be able to help them. Okay, and it's leading to what? Straight up misery. Languishing. Okay, because what does the government keep saying? Everything's going to be all right. When they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon thee suddenly. Worse, yeah, worse. That's right. Worse than, so it's already bad. So now it's going to get worse. Okay, and that's why the wisdom and knowledge and the strength of Isaiah 33:6, the wisdom and knowledge and stability shall be the strength of our times, and the fear of the Lord is his treasure. Okay, so it is a treasure to what? Fear the Lord. Okay, and what the Lord's coming to do, because the Lord's coming to what? Send salvation, but only for the elect. Those that don't listen, far as have their eyes closed, okay, they can't see the vision, or they have their ears stuffed, far as they can't hear the message of the prophets. They're going to lead to what? Worse than worse, sad, unhappy, evil, hurtful, because the Lord has given us a commandment to go down the straight path, which is a position of difficulty, but it's something that's possible through Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, to go down that straight path. Okay, through much tribulation we shall enter to the kingdom. Okay, and the Lord's given us knowledge, wisdom, understanding to be able to avoid the punishment that's coming down. And those that don't acknowledge Yahweh Shema Shai, they're going to receive the plagues in this book. Evil, wicked, ethically, because they're going to go against everything that they so-called stood for, their government. Okay, their deeds, their actions, because they're actually going to show who they are. Okay, Trump is going to show his teeth, or whoever's in office that's there, they're going to show their teeth, and they're going to show you that this is ran by the wicked, Esau, Edom, okay, and they are the synagogue of Satan. Okay, so that's also another thing that you have, is that real ID. If you're saying certain things about people, you're not going to be able to have access to these certain dainties that they're offering. Okay, injury, wrong, ethical, misery, distress. Okay, and that's what they're bringing upon the people. That's why the people are in an uproar, where they're out there protesting, and some of these are orchestrated by the elites. Okay, but you actually have people that believe in these certain things, so they go out there and begin to do it. They don't understand what it actually is, that it's a play on your mind. Psalms 140:3, they have sharpened their tongues like serpent adders, poison under their lips a lot. So they have sharpened their tongues, okay, which is what? Through their legislation. And when I show you the video, you get a better understanding of it. Okay, because he's speaking about the Fourth Amendment right, which is basically the Fourth Amendment right is when they can be able to go into your house. Okay, they don't need to have a warrant. Okay, and if they pass a law where if you're within 100 miles of the border, which basically every major city is, then they can be able to go into your house, and they don't need to have a warrant to go into your house. They can just do it and take whatever that you have, take you out of there, take your family up, call you extremists, call you radicalists, right? That's why to be in Yahweh Shema Shai, to be deeply rooted, okay? Because this is going to happen where this is going to affect everybody at their doorstep, okay? And, some form of way, okay? With your family members, right? This is not going away.
Strong's H8150. Shanann.
Okay, so sharpen, sanan, sharpen, wet. So what are they wetting? They're wetting their tongue and writing these unrighteous decrees on the people. So they'll put the executive order to the side, and then when the time comes, they can be able to just bring it out and say, we already had it, to be pierced. So people are going to be pierced through by listening to their words, because they're going to be enchanted by the philosophies that they're coming with, and ultimately be pierced physically with that chip. Okay, because those that are, far as enchanted by, in fear of what your government, okay, you're going to take the chip. Okay, we're in fear of Yahweh Shema Shai, because we know that the Lord controls both good and evil. So point, right, prick, sharpen, pierce figuratively, right? Okay, so that's what they're doing with their words. You have piercing words, and they are piercing the people with their certain orders. For instance, that tariff. Those tariffs that Trump is putting on the people, that's leading to where the small businesses are beginning to be destroyed. Okay, where there is no more. Now people are becoming hopeless and homeless. Okay, and on the streets. So they're what are they doing? They're turning to the certain resources that Esau Edom has. Okay, which they shall help in vain. Psalms 140:4. Keep me, O Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from that violent man who proposed to overthrow my going. So they're plotting to overthrow the ways of us following Yahweh Shema Shai by puffing at us with their military, with their executive orders. Okay, but the elect, they're going to continue in the faith. Okay, it says the proud have hid a snare for me in their cords. So that snare is what the real ID in these certain devices that they're going to be rolling out. Okay, because it's all to help in vain. They're not telling you the whole story. Okay, the proud have hid a snare for me in the cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. So spread a net by the wayside over all the people, and that net is with the money. Okay, when you look at the back of the dollar bill, you have the webs that are in the money. So people will kill over a dollar bill. They'll kill over 10 cents. So imagine how much more when they don't have food or water. Okay, this is going to lead to those cords being spread out, where people are going to be caught up in that net, because they're going to ask for help from their government, and they're going to be in a disgrace, because it's nothing but a jinn or a snare. Okay, our rock is in Yahweh Shema Shai. So also they're going to be coming down with the great accusation also. Okay, far as accusing us of extremists, radicalists, treason, right, sedition, all these different things, when we're just reading the Holy Scriptures. Okay, right, and they're beginning to outlaw the Bible far as teaching on the streets. Okay, they're doing that in the UK, right, and that's going to come to America, because also you have the Department of Homeland Security, where they've already put out a bulletin, okay, in 2022, that if you're faith-based group or have different ideologies, then you are someone they're looking at. Okay, and those would be the men of the Lord. Okay, because that's really what it's about. It's about good and evil. All the other people that, the false prophets and things like that, they're just set up to be destroyed. But the true men of the Lord are the ones that are going to stand. Okay, and the wicked, as far as the elite, they're the ones that are, coming with the executive orders and things like that. So, but we know their playbook through Yahweh Shema Shai, because he is our rock. Psalm 62:5. My soul, wait thou upon thy power, for my expectations from him. So the expectation goes into hope. Okay. He only is my rock. So that rock is what Yahweh Shai, and my salvation leading to to be able to be saved out of this coming destruction. He is my defense against Esau Edom coming in like a flood, his gins and his snares, his net. I shall not be moved. So even when they come down with these executive orders saying, if you're reading the Bible, if you have these certain viewpoints, you could be put into prison. We already understand it. And we're not going to be moved. I shall not be moved, and our power is my salvation, my glory, the rock of my strength, and my refuge is in the Most High. Trust in Him at all times. So all times, even when we're possibly put into a prison for what we believe in, possibly beheaded for the truth, for what we again believe in. Okay, and those that stood stiffly for that name's sake are the ones that are going to receive that crown upon their head, meaning that you didn't waver, you were immovable. Okay, Psalm 62:8. Trust in Him at all times, you people. Pour out your heart. So pour out your heart to what to Yahweh Shema Shai, prayer without ceasing, and also what going into the works, doing the work, being on fire for the truth. Pour out your heart before Him. Our power is our refuge for us, Salah. Okay, our power is our refuge, not these devils. Okay, so let me go back to this. So this is from Redacted. It says, warning, real ID is the final step before a full-blown surveillance state. Okay, and this is what the prophets would be speaking about. Okay, that Esau Edom has a God complex. He thinks he is the Most High, so he wants to be able to put a chip in your hand so he can be able to control your buying and selling. Okay, and this is him knowing that he has but a short time, so he's rolling out his devices. And one of them is the real ID, right? So let's let it play.
It says that there will not be any unlawful or unreasonable searches and seizures, and it protects you against that from the federal government. But since I've been alive pretty much, because I was born in 2001, I'm 23 years old, we've had this erosion of our privacy rights and Fourth Amendment protection, starting with the Patriot Act, now with this Real ID. And so it's not surprising that that's happening right now, because the Trump...
And what is that? That's them doing a diligent search. Okay? That's them doing what a diligent search, and what having the Patriot Act. Now you have the Patriot Act 2.0, which is basically they can be able to watch everybody because they deem everybody as as a terrorist or extremist. And that's what a fugitive would do. Okay, a fugitive, which is Esau Edom, he is that vagabond fugitive. Vagabond means running to and fro, but a fugitive of what? Justice. Okay, because his judgment is what? Coming soon. Okay, and so when someone's on the run, they're always got to vet everybody. Who's that? Who's going over there? Who's coming over there? And that's what Esau Edom's doing. Oh, who's this? Are they one of the prophets? We need to tag them. We need to get rid of them. Okay? So that's the mindset of what Esau Edom, because he is that fugitive. So he's becoming what? Paranoid. He needs, because again, the Lord is visiting this devil. Okay? And what his dreams, knowing that his kingdom is going to be destroyed. Okay? His kingdom ain't going to rise up at the phoenix, the fable. Okay, they're not going to rise up out of the ashes. Okay, when the destruction comes and they're in their bunkers, the Lord's going to take them out of those bunkers and bringing them into hardcore slavery. Isaiah 24 is one of the scriptures that you can go into. Okay, and Amos 9, Isaiah 2. Okay, there's many scriptures that go into that, right? So, and that's what a fugitive would do. They're constantly vetting who's around them. Who's he talk to? Where does he go? Who does he know? Right, because they don't want to be caught, right? But the murmurings are what are reaching with the heavens, and the sins have reached the heavens. As far as the people are what crying out, okay, particularly with the hopeful elect. So let's go to this. This is Psalm 64:6. They search out iniquities; they accomplish a diligent search. So they have certain devices that they roll out on the people, like the Patriot Act, right? No one really said anything because of what what happened, the towers. Right, the towers being, so with those towers, right, people saw it as justified. Okay, it's set up to help us, to secure us, but really that was all fraud because it was an inside hit. When you look at evidence of that, okay, it was set up to be able to surveil everybody. Okay, so Psalm 64:6, and now they openly want to do it. They want you to just bow down to this, get the real ID. You can be able to have certain, pleasures, certain dainties, these certain things, right? So Psalm 64:6, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both their inward thought of every one of them, and their heart is deep. Yeah, their heart is deep. Let me start from 5. Psalm 64:5, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. Okay, in an evil matter, so a bad manner, right? They commune of laying snares, so traps, privily they say, who shall see them? Okay, and the men of the Lord see you, and Yahweh Shema Shai sees you, because he's given us the wisdom to be able to know what you're going to do next, which is what? Prophecy. Okay, Psalm 64:6, in the NLT. Psalm 64:6 in the NLT, as they plot their crimes, because they are crimes against humanity. Okay? Because they're saying one thing, doing another. And this is leading to what? Death. As they plot their crimes, they say, we have devised a perfect plan. Yes, the human heart and the mind are cunning. Okay? So that's what they think. Their perfect plan is what their New World Order, that vain thing. Okay? So that's what that was all about, is to be able to what? Surveil the people, to watch over the people. This is Psalms 10:7. Let me read it in the NLT. It says, their mouths are full of cursing, right? And lies and threats. So they're also threatening you, like they did in 2020. You know, you're going to lose your job if you don't have this, if you don't have this juice. You know, you're going to, you know, if you don't follow these way, you know, vote or die. They'll say these certain slogans and people actually believe in the government, which government just means mind control. Okay? So Psalms 10:7 in the NLT, their mouths are full of cursing and lies and threats. Trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues. They lurk in ambush in the villages, waiting to murder the innocent people. They are always searching for helpless victims. So how do they lurk in ambush? They lurk by what? Their surveillance, by Big Brother, watching your every movement. They can watch you on your phone. They listen into your conversations. That's how certain you'll say something and then something will pop up on your phone. Okay, if you have a smart TV in your room, right, they can be able to turn it on and be able to listen to your conversation. So that's how they're in the lurking places. Okay, then they have all these different satellites. Their nest has reached the heavens, right, and they're watching everybody and what they're doing. Okay, and now they want to track and trace everybody because they have a God complex. They think they are the Most High. Okay, their pride is lifted up. This is Psalms 10:8 in the King James Version. He that sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, so the villages are the cities that they're watching over, particularly the ghettos, barrios, and reservations, right? In the secret places do he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. And who are the poor? So-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, so-called Native Americans. Again, we're in the ghettos, barrios, and reservations, so they're privily set on watching us and tracking and tracing us because what they have a perpetual hatred towards us. 9, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He has a lion in his den. You can't see him until what? He pounces on you with his what? Military. Okay, he lieth in wait and secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He do catch the poor when he draw them into his net, and that net is going to be that money. Okay, people trusting in money. They're even going to offer incentives, stimulus. Okay, what did Elon Musk say? They want to give $5,000 each person. That's going to draw people in. A universal basic income, that's going to draw people in because people don't want to work because they're lazy as fuck. Okay, they don't want to get up and do nothing. They want everything free. So in that, Esau Edom is playing on that so they can be able to make money, and ultimately make them, make them have that chip because they're going to follow those philosophies. And ultimately, when they roll out the chip, it's just regular. Okay, just let it play.
Administration is embracing many of the same tactics as the war on terror. We have this rendition program now where we're sending people to El Salvador, and Kristi Noem from the DHS has announced that she's going to be screening visa applicants for anti-Semitism. And so it makes sense that they're doing this.
See, and this is what it's all about. Okay, that's what it's all about. Okay, let me go back on that.
It's not surprising that that's happening right now because the Trump administration is embracing many of the same tactics as the war on terror. We have this rendition program now where we're sending people to El Salvador, and Kristi Noem from the DHS has announced that she's going to be screening visa applicants for anti-Semitism. And so it makes sense that they're doing this, pulling this tool out of the old war on terror bag and trying to revive this old legislation now at this moment.
See, and that's what it's all about, anti-Semitism. So if you're against these small hats, okay, then you're not going to be able to have a real ID. You're not going to be able to go to certain cities. You're not going to be able to do certain things, okay? So again, they'll use pleasant words and saying we're just all about protecting people, but who are they really about? They're about protecting the wicked, okay, which is Esau Edom. And let me get a saying, right? It's called Cui Bono. Okay. Cui Bono.
Cui Bono.
Cui Bono. Right? It says, who stands or stood to gain from a crime or so might have been responsible. So who stands to gain from anti-Semitism? Okay, they do. Esau Edom, the so-called white men. They are the small hats. Okay, they are the ones that you have this anti-law, which is actually, it would be Shem. They're from the line of Shem. Okay, but they made up that word, right, to be able to what fit them. So if you're against them, the wicked, okay, the ungodly, the ones that you can't talk about, okay, then if you are against them, then what, you can be put into prison. Okay, that's another thing that Trump also passed. And then also with the Real ID, where they were saying they're scanning people. So basically, if you're out there, America is supposed to be a so-called free country. So if you're out there protesting for Gaza, right, then you are anti-Semitism. Okay, then you could be sent away. Okay. So cui bono, to whose benefit? So who benefits from them screening people like that, far as they can't be able to have the Real ID, they can't, travel on a plane, they can't go to federal offices. Okay, the wicked, right? And we know the wicked is in power because what, the earth is what, mourning. Okay, there's also a saying from Saki, bear with me. Okay, and this is a quote from Voluntary, right? This guy right here. It says, if you want to know who controls you, look at who you are not allowed to criticize. So what happens whenever these, certain celebrities, they think that they're smart or whatever, they think that they know something, so they want to tell the whole world. What happens? Okay, look at what Kyrie Irving, look at what Kanye West. Okay, whenever these people have spoke out and said certain things about these small hats, right? What has happened? Okay, they end up basically tucking their tail and saying, we didn't say that. Okay, or they get real quiet. If you want to know who controls you, you look at who are you're not allowed to criticize, and who is that? Whenever that you always have these legislations that protect these certain people, and no one's even really paying attention to what they're really doing. Okay, but they'll push what the basically propaganda that everybody's attacking them. Okay, but that's what happens when you're paranoid, when you're on the run. You think everybody's against you. Okay, because first of all, everybody doesn't know who you are. Okay, particularly what the men of the Lord know who you are. Okay, know that you are straight up the devil. Okay, so again, if you want to know who controls you, look at who you are not allowed to criticize. Right? And this is what, let's get this, Revelation 2:9. Yeah, Revelation 2:9. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know that blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but they are the synagogue of Satan. Okay, and that's Esau Edom. Now, this is referring to what, Israelites, but Esau Edom is in that place right now. Okay, they are saying that they are the Jews, but they are not. Okay, and that's only that would only be what, one tribe. Okay, the tribe of Judah. Okay, Yahweh, which means Yahweh thanks. Okay, so they're saying that they are, but they're not. They don't fit the curses. Okay, that they would be under, right? Because they're not in poverty. They are what, rich. Okay, they have money. They're able to make legislation so where people can't even talk about them. Okay, so Revelation 2:9. I know that works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Right? Aren't they rich? Don't they have the fatness of the earth? Don't they have all the money? Aren't they in control of what goes on, certain legislation, who's in office, the different cult of personalities? And I know that blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and they are not, but the synagogue of Satan. Okay? So fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer, right? We're going to have to suffer for what, for speaking this word, right? Prophesying against what Mount Seir, like we're supposed to do. Okay, but in that, what there's salvation in that. Behold, the devil, which is Esau Edom, they are the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon of Satan. Satan means adverse to the holy scriptures. So they are adverse to the scriptures. That's why they'll say they are these certain people, but they're actually not. because they don't want to say that they're Esau Edom, because that is the wicked, that is the ungodly, that is the curse that's on them forever. Okay, behold, the devil, so Esau Edom, the deceiver, shall cast some of you into prison, and you shall be tried. So why would they cast us into prison? Because of what we believe in. Okay, our weapons of warfare are not carnal, but how we wound our adversaries is with this holy sword, which is the scriptures. Okay, and they're being cut to the heart by this truth. Okay, so they have to come out with some type of legislation to be able to combat the truth, but they can't do nothing against the truth or for the truth, because the Lord already said this would happen. That's why John the Revelator said this: fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried. You shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So 10 goes into perfection. It could be more, it could be less, or it could be 10. Okay, but you bared your cross. You were faithful unto death, even in some of us being martyrs for the truth. And I will give thee a crown of life. Okay, and that's what we're fighting for. If you're of the hopeful elect, as far as the mindset. Okay, this is Revelation 3:7. And to the angel of the church of Philadelphia write these sayings. So these things that he is holy, yes, so separate. He that is true, that he had the key of David. He opened, no man shutteth, and no man opens. So the Lord has opened. Yahushua has opened our minds, as far as open the seals of this book, to be able to give us this knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Okay, to be a part of the tabernacle of David, the part of the elect. Okay, and no man can shut it. Once the Lord opens it up, if you're of the elect, that door is going to stay open, far as that door of information. Okay, of that tower of knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Okay, because the name of the Lord is a tower, the righteous run into is safe, and that tower cannot be defeated by Esau Edom's military. Okay, or Esau Edom's snares or traps, his devices. Okay, Revelation 3:8. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee the open doors. Yahushua is known as the door. Opens the door to what's your mind, right? Planted that mustard seed. And no man shut, if thou hast a little strength and has kept my word. Yeah, has kept my word, meaning that you didn't change it. You didn't waver in the doctrine. You didn't try to make it worldly, and has not denied my name. Because you have a lot of men where they, when this chip is mandated, okay, when the hour of temptation comes, right, they're gonna deny the Lord's name, because you're gonna have to denounce the Lord's name to be able to take the chip. They're gonna say you're gonna denounce that, and then they're gonna give the people the chip. Okay, because it speaks about they that give consent shall be trodden underfoot. Okay, now they're gonna bring some of us to these camps, but they're not gonna physically put the chip inside of you unless you give consent. Okay, and that would be considered the hour of temptation. Right. So Revelation 3:8. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee the open door, and no man shut it, for thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. So part of the Lord, kept the Lord's word, is prophesying against Mount Seir, not making covenants with them. Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, right? Don't they say that they're the Jews, right? And are not. Yeah, they're not. But do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before thy feet, to know I will love thee. Okay, because this is speaking about the Israelites, but we use it to be able to refer to Esau Edom. Okay, so Revelation 3:10, because thou hast kept thy word of thy patience. So we're keeping the word of Yahweh Shemashai, so we're going to be persecuted. Okay, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, when they mandate the mark of the beast. In the beginning stages of it is that real ID, going into a cashless society. Keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. Yeah, it's going to come upon the world. That word world goes into the Greek oikoumene. Okay, everywhere where there's commerce, the chip is going to be rolled out. That's why you see things going on in China, UK, Australia, and all those things are going to be coming to America also. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take that crown. What are we holding fast to? Yahweh Shema Shai, this knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Okay, so when they're doing all these unrighteous decrees, draconian measures, we're going to trust in Yahweh Shema Shai, because we understand this is all part of the movie. Okay, let me let it keep playing.
Can you explain more about the purpose of Real ID from a government standpoint? Not what they're telling us, but what the actual purpose is. Because Representative Thomas Massey said that this is proof that your physical person matches their entry in a database. So can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, basically the data that's printed on these IDs would all be standardized and shared with a single network. That's not what we have right now. Each state controls how they want to ID each of their citizens. That's under the 10th Amendment that we have that. This is a total reversal of that, and it's really a radical change. They want to standardize it and make it national, which makes it easier for the government to track and monitor you. Again, it makes sense why they're doing this, because this is the game that they've been playing for so long.
Okay, they want to standardize it, and they want to centralize it. Okay, which is what? New World Order. Okay, they're gathering all these different nations, the kings of the earth, right, to be able to be on one consent, which is what the United Nations Pact for the Future, the digital cooperation, to bring forth their science, to bring forth their technology, to bring forth they are gods, right? So they're causing it. Right? Form and fashion a society, right? Psalms 2:1. Why did the heathen rage and the people imagine vain things? So the heathen is what? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Psalms 83, the crafty counsel. Rage, they're causing commotion, causing tumults across the country. Okay, where people are protesting and people are angry, and it's causing what? Violence. Okay, and the people, right? Our own people, they imagine they're part of it too. The ones that with the 501c3 contracts, the ones that are preaching false doctrine. Imagine a vain thing. That vain thing is the New World Order. Okay? The kings of the earth set themselves, right? So the kings of the earth would be the ones that got the, these different leaders of these different countries, the 193 countries, right? Those leaders have that signed the pact for the future to follow what America and the New World Order, to follow what, to worship what the beast system, the revival of the Roman Empire, America sparing the charge of NATO doing unto it. So the kings of the earth set themselves, and rulers take counsel together against Yahweh, against the anointed saying. So that's what they're doing. They're taking counsel together, right, against the Lord Yahweh, okay, against his anointed, against what the prophets, speaking, that are speaking against this, okay, or telling you the truth. As far as we understand it's going to happen, but we're telling you the truth, right? And that is what, that is a snare for Esau, Edom, the men of the Lord being on the highways and the byways, because we're speaking about the truth. And in that's hewing this devil. So the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh, against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. So cast away what? Our relationship with Yahweh Shema Shai, by offering up that chip and saying that they are the Most High, that they are gods, when they're just, mortal men. Okay? Trusting in their science. Right? Because what did Timothy say? Right? Because that's what they're gloating in. Okay, that they have all the technology. 1 Timothy 6:20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane. Profane means outside the temple. Okay, in vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called. So they're saying that, that climate change, they're saying that we need to depopulate the earth, right? We need to be able to centralize everybody's data. Right. And that data is very important, right? Because the data is your information that everybody has, where they can be able to control you with that data. They can be able to cut your bank account because of something that you posted or something that you said. You're seeing stories of this where people are being fired because of something that they said, on these different platforms. Okay. So we're supposed to avoid what those vain babblings and opposites of science falsely so called. So they're using their scientists to justify their pseudoscience. Okay, for instance, with Neuralink, with the brain implant. Okay, that's their signs and lying wonders. Right, and he said the information that they want to centralize it. Okay, when you go into Revelation 13:16, and he calls it all both small, great, rich, and poor, free and bond to receive a mark in their right hands or in their foreheads. Okay, who calls it? The revival of the Roman Empire. America spearheading the charge of NATO join unto it, and these nations are following, far as the mark, okay, in the ointment sense, right? But they are divided at the top, far as who's going to be in control. So when you go into this word mark, right, that's why the apostles have gone into these words through the power of Yahweh Shema Shai, because that is what that oil. Okay, seeking for what the truth. Sometimes it's not right just there on the on the screen. You have to go further. Okay, And the Lord, what gives us that grace to be able to go further in the scriptures, to go into the Greek, the Latin, and the Hebrew, okay, to get a better understanding. So when you go into this word mark, okay, which is the Greek word charagma, which is the actual RFID chip, okay, that if you take it, you would be an adulterous image. It would be a badge of servitude if you took that RFID chip, which you have the brain implant right now, and you have pay with your face, pay with your palm, okay, metaverse, Apple Vision, okay, Ray-Ban Meta. You have all these different forms of them gradually bringing it in. Okay, if you take it, you would be a graven image. Okay, and the Lord said, "I have no graven images before me." So the word charagma. Okay, then you go to the root word karax, which is the actual sharpened to a point, which is the actual syringe they would use to put the RFID chip inside your hand or inside your forehead, the brain implant. Okay, and they would form a siege, okay, on the city. You're not going to be able to go to certain places unless you have that chip inside your hand. And that's what they're saying with the real ID. You're not able to go to travel on a flight unless you have that real ID, which is digitally. Okay, gradualism to the chip. You're not able to go in a federal office unless you have the real ID, which is what gradualism to the physical chip. So that is their military mound going into what their government. Okay, and they are what circumvaluation, which is mean they're putting up a wall where you can't go unless you have credentials. So that is a siege, which is a military tactic to have the people inside bowing down. So you go to the root word of this, right, which is the grapho. Okay, 1125, the word grapho.
Strong's G 1125. Grapho.
Okay, to write with reference, and we know that everything is going digital. Okay, people are not really using paper anymore, right? And this is going to a digital society to give information. So your information is also what your data. A similar word to information is your data. Okay, that's why when you go to certain websites, it always asks, do you accept these cookies? Which is basically you're accepting them taking all your data, your information, and then they can be able to use it to be able to, sell you stuff, or they can be able to, format things that you would like, right? So information, facts provided, learned about something or someone, and that's what the biometrics is of the grapho. Okay, it's a uniquely identifiable to what each person, okay, by what your facial recognition or by your hand, pay with your palm, right? So again, a similar word for information is what data, okay, what you just said. They want the data centralized, the New World Order, that vain thing, okay? It says data, the facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. Yeah, reference or analysis if you're going to be able to buy and sell in their society. Because when you go to Revelation 12 and 10, okay, that word accuser, it goes into the root word G58, okay, agara, which means the marketplace, where they're going to be judging whether you can be able to buy and sell. Those that invested millions and billions of dollars in that technology. Okay, it's all about having total control. So that grapho, okay, is what the information that would be on the mark, that when they scan the chip, wherever it is in your hand or your forehead, that information would pop up. Your biometrics, your ESG, environmental social governance, your social credit score, right? All that information would pop up. So that would be what that digital yoke around the hand or the forehead. Okay, so they can be able to just shut off your chip if you get a change of heart. Okay, and they're causing it, right, through their legislation. Like he said, the Fourth Amendment, right, is he said since he's been alive or whatever, right? So since the towers, I believe that was in 2001. Okay, they had the Patriot Act. Okay, so they're watching and surveilling everybody. Now they're just telling you that they're doing it. Okay, and now what they're beginning to roll out what their actual mandates. Okay, the word poeo.
Strong's G 4160. Poeo.
Okay, to make with names. So they're making these different products as far as the facial recognition, these different blockchains, right? Getting the people in an uproar, putting certain people in office like Elon Musk behind Trump, right? Larry Ellison, that's part of Stargate, which is part of Oracle. Okay, these Sam Ottoman, which is part of WorldCoin, where they were scanning the eye. So you have all these different, artificial intelligence guys, these technocrats that are right behind what the president, which the president can sign the order, bring in the unrighteous decree, so he can constitute it. Okay, what's the word constitute mean?
Constitute.
Right, be part of, be a whole. So they want it's not just about America anymore going into that wealth transfer. It's about all the nations being under one. Okay, being under that New World Order, Esau, Edom being at the top. Okay, to give legal constitutional form, institution established by law. Okay, and who's able to sign what legislation? Trump. Okay, established by law. So they're gonna establish it by law that you have to follow these orders. Otherwise, you could be outed. Okay, or if you're speaking about these people, you're not going to be able to live in a certain area, or you're not going to be able to have certain luxuries like a driver's license and certain things like that. Okay, so they're going to constitute it, form and fashion it, right? And who's going to carry it out? Their military. Okay, they're going to carry out and execute it on the people. Okay, so that sword is being furbished. Okay, Revelation 13:16, he calls it all, both small, great, rich, and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. So something physical. They want inside the hand or the forehead, the RFID chip in the right hand. So that's why you have pay with your palm, right? Or in the foreheads, right? That's why you have facial recognition. Okay, the brain implant with Neuralink, right? And that no man might buy or sell except he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So the word buy, as I was speaking about earlier, is also the same word in Revelation 12:10, that word accuse, right? Which goes right back to this, the Greek G58. So you have the word agarazo, which is the actual marketplace to buy and sell. So go to the root word agara. Okay.
Strong's G58. Agara. Agara.
Okay. Agara, assembly, especially of people. So the assembly, especially of people, are those kings of the earth that are conspiring together to bring out what the pact for the future, the digital cooperation. So you have basically the real ID is going to be checking whether you can be able to get on that flight or go into that federal office. If you don't have that real ID, you're not going to be able to go into it. Okay, for trial. So you're going to be put on trial whether you can be able to buy and sell, or if you have these certain opinions about these certain people. Okay, then you're not going to be able to be a part of their society. Okay, for buying and selling. Yeah, for buying and selling. So if you want food, you want water, you want shelter, okay, you're going to have to have that chip inside your hand. So that's why these Israelites, right, that are hucksters, that's what they're going to have to do. Okay, they're going to have to take that physical chip inside the hand because they want to be a part of the society. Okay, the town square. So that's why they're cutting off also all these businesses. Okay, cutting off the market and making where you only got to go to them. It says that no man may buy or sell, so that's man, woman, and child, might buy or sell, so if he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So the number of his name is what the Chi Psi Sigma, which is the 666. 18. Here is wisdom, let him at understanding count the number of the beast, for his number of a man is the number 603. Okay, which is, you see it all over what Esau Edom's when he does his ceremonies, the 666, and you see him throwing it up, the Via Pisces, right? All these different satanic symbols, showing you that they're down with what the New World Order. Right? So you have the Chi and the Psi and the Sigma. So the Chi, right, is what Esau Edom on the left-hand side, saying that he is a savior. Okay? Coming with his pseudoscience, right? Deceiving many. Right? And then you have what the Chi is, what their philosophies, man on man, woman on woman, bestiality, right? Their system, their 2030 agenda. Okay, and those that fall for those agendas or okay with those agendas, right? They're going to take the physical stigma, which is the RFID chip, because what they've entered inside with your temple, far as with those philosophies, far as playing on your mind, and now when they come out with the chip, you're just going to take it because you've already been enchanted. Okay, so when you go down, it doesn't say too much, but when you go into the root word, the etymology, the truth of the word stigma.
Strong's G 4742. Stigma. Stigma.
Okay, stigma, a mark pricked or branded upon the body to ancient Oriental usage. Slaves and soldiers bore the name of the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut. Okay, showing you that this is something physical. Cut into the bodies to indicate what master or general belonged to. So this is ultimately what it's leading to. So you have the surveillance where they're watching everybody. Now the ones that take the chip, they know exactly what they're doing. They can even shut off their chip. Okay. That's why the men of the Lord are telling you, never trust thine enemy, for like iron is rusted, so is his wickedness. Okay, that's why John the Revelator is telling what the very elect of this time, here is wisdom, let him have understanding, yeah, the one that has understanding. What to seal not the words of prophecy, because what the time is at hand. Okay, to give our people warning whether they will hear or forbear. Here is wisdom, let him have understanding, count the number of the beast, for his number of a man, his number is 636, and that's Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, bringing in what his new world order, trying to mark and brand you with what that physical chip inside the hand. So what is he doing right now? He's coming with what his devices, which is what the real ID. So lest Satan should get advantage of us, we're not ignorant of his devices, that they want to centralize this going into the new world order. Okay. So there's one more point, about 7 minutes.
And then, I mean, we should have the right to do that. Maybe you don't.
Federal crime?
Right.
I mean, all of this is in question now. The fact is that they passed this law a long time ago with the Patriot Act, as you mentioned, but they failed to enforce it for this exact reason, because each state, like New York and Connecticut, they have different rules about this. That, you know, Connecticut has this real ID. They've had it for a while, but New York has not. And so it creates a lot of confusion. And just like really everything that the DHS has done since 9/11, including the ramping up the...
Okay, so what they're speaking about is it's been around for a while. Okay. Slakia. So it's been around for a while. Okay. But now they're actually rolling out. Okay. Why is that? Because the Lord has set them in motion to be able to do that. Okay. Bear with me. Let's see something. Because the end shall speak and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it. Okay, and what are we waiting for? The prophecies to be revealed, or far as the prophecies to be fulfilled, because the prophecies have been revealed to the servants, the prophets, but actually them to happen. Okay. Slaki, bear with me. There was one more point that he was speaking about. Okay.
Security at TSA, where we all have to undress. There's no real point to it. It doesn't seem like it makes us safer. There's no evidence that it stopped any terror attacks, because in fact we've still had these terror attacks on our soil, like in Boston, that DHS or the FBI or any of these groups failed to stop. It just seems like a way to hassle us. You know, Gore Vidal wrote about this a long time ago. He called it the shredding of the Bill of Rights, and I think that's exactly what's happening now. It was very prescient.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Yep. Because that's why they call them amendments, because they're set up to be changed. Right? So this is Isaiah 10. Isaiah 10 and 1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and write grievances which they have prescribed. So woe means destruction or doom or terror. A decree is what? A law. They're unrighteous to what? To who? The ones at the bottom, the poor. So they write grievances, they write it in their legislation so they can be able to bring it out for the appointed time, like the real ID, which they have prescribed. So they make unfair laws on to the people. Okay. And then what puts the people in where they begin to languish. Okay. They begin to be exhausted. Okay. And they just basically do whatever the government says, just to be able to have some sense of so-called peace. Okay. But this is not our rest. Right? Isaiah 24 and 4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languish and people fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. Okay, and the people are beginning to languish. Okay, where they're beginning to just bow down to whatever that Esau Edom has for them, whatever their government brings out. Okay, so going back to this, Isaiah 10:1. Translation comparison. Isaiah 10:1 in the NET. Those who enact unjust policies are good as dead. And who are they unjust to? You so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, so-called Native Americans, the poor. Those who are always instituting unfair regulations, and unfair to what regulations, now you have to pay for these certain credentials, and then you're going to have to pay for it ultimately with taking away of certain things. Okay, just like with the driver's license, right? You have to pay for that. Why is that? Because they make money off it. They have a whole court system, traffic court, and all that is set up to make money off that. Okay, insurance, register, all this stuff that you don't need. Okay, but it's set up to. That's how they're able to make money through what fraud. So woe unto those enacting crooked statutes and writing oppressive laws, and they are oppressive to what? To everybody that's under them. This is the oppressor. Okay. So in that's going to lead to what the great persecution, the great insurrection that's coming down. So I want to go to this. This is Sirach 50:51. Sirach 51:2. For thou art my defender and helper, and I preserve my body from the destruction and from the snare of the slanderous tongue, and from the lips that forge lies, that has been my helper against my adversary. So when we're speaking this truth, they're going to be calling us extremists, terrorists, right? Slandering us, saying we're not the people, we're not the Israelites. Right? So our Lord is our defender and our helper, and he's going to preserve our body from destruction, from these missiles, from Esau Edom coming in like a flood, from the snare of the slanderous tongue, which is Esau Edom, from the lips that forges lies. Yeah, these are forgers of lies, physicians of no value. Okay? It says, and has been my helper against my adversaries, yeah, against our enemies, and who is our number one enemy? Esau Edom. Okay? And has delivered me according to the multitude of mercies and greatness of that name. So for the Lord's name, the Lord's going to deliver his elect. We're praying we're of that number. From the teeth, right, their military, of them that are ready to devour me, and out of the hands such as sought after my life. So even our own people are going to seek after our lives. Okay? And from the manifold afflictions which I have had. So manifold meaning everywhere. The plague's going to be on every side. There's no hiding from this unless you're under the covering of Yahweh Shema Shai in that secret place, which is the scriptures. From the choking of the fire on every side, from the midst of the fire which I kindled not. So that the choking of the fire is where there's going to be the heat everywhere. You're going to have people going into one another's houses, people actually committing fires, okay, ravaging of the women, right, of the people, right, from the depth of the belly of hell. From the unclean tongue and from the lying words, yeah, from the unclean tongue, which is what Esau Edom, the belly of hell, because hell is a condition put out on earth. And then we are what? In the belly of the beast, which is America. By an accusation of the king, so accusation, pouring out a charge, right, charging us with sedition or treason, right, when our weapons of warfare are not carnal, how we wound our adversaries is with these scriptures. Okay, so if you are anti-small hat, right, by the accusation to the king from the unrighteous tongue, my soul drew near even unto death. My life was near unto hell beneath. They compassed me on every side, and there was no man to help me. I looked for succor. Succor goes into safety of men, but there was none. Then I thought upon the mercy, O Lord, upon the acts of old, right? How the time, the Abednego, Meshach, right, and Shadrach, right, the three holy children, right, when they were in the furnace, right? And then Nebuchadnezzar looked in there and Yahushua was with them. Yeah, that Lord's with us always. So those are the acts of old. This is Acts 2.0. How thou deliverest such as wait for thee, and thou savest them out of the hands of thy enemies, which is Esau Edom. Then I lifted up supplication, so prayer, begging the Lord to be able to save us from the earth. I prayed for deliverance from death. And there's no other name whereby under heaven whereby you must be saved. And that name is what? Yahushua. Okay, and who sent them? The Heavenly Father, Yahweh. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Yahweh and Yahushai are the names of power. Any other names is not gonna be sufficient enough to be able to be saved. Then that's why this is so precious. Then I lifted up myself, which is this knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Then I lifted up my supplications from the earth, and I prayed for deliverance from death. Who's death? Esau Edom. I called upon the Lord, my father of my Lord, that he would not leave me in the days of trouble, the time of Jacob's trouble, the hour of temptation, right, when resources are cut off, and the time of the proud, right, the time of Esau, Edom, he is the proud, when there was no help. I will praise thy name continually. Okay, prayer without ceasing. I will praise thy name continually, meaning that you have to know the name. I will sing praises with thanksgiving, and so my prayer was heard. For thou savest me from the destruction, and deliverest me from the evil time. Therefore I will give thanks and praise thee, and bless the name of our Lord. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Akakwadash. Shalom to the elect, Kwam Yashala. Let's go.